Hello, hello. Secret Level is a new internet TV show about video games, sort of. It has 15 video game shorts, although many of them I have never heard of before. I'm going to rank these little boogers from A to F, and there's not going to be any S's. This is not a show where I'm going to be handing out S's. Okay, in release order, let's get started. Dungeons & Dragons: The Queen's Cradle. This one suffers a lot of the same issues as most D&D related media. It's very generic due to being D&D. It's mainly a showcase of game classes. There's sort of a story and some characterization going on that I find mildly interesting, and there is a twist that isn't really that much of a twist. More importantly, there's a bit of dumb fun. It's predictable though, which takes some of the wind out of the sails. While it was the first one that I saw, I still felt like it was a bit middle of the road, so it's a good baseline for what to expect from the rest of this series, which is not good news because it's unfortunately one of the better ones. So let's give it a firm B. Now, Sifu, It Takes a Life. The only thing I remember about the video game Sifu is the premise that when you die, you get older. So guess what this short is about? And that's really all there is to it. And that's the through line of a lot of these shorts. They're usually the most literal interpretation of what the games were. And when it comes to video game adaptations, that's usually what people struggle with. So this one has value in some of its choreography, but otherwise there's not a lot of substance to it. But it does look pretty good. It's perfectly average entertainment. Now, the quality of this one and the first one is narrow, but I want the lettering to be wide enough to discuss them, so we're giving this one a D. Otherwise, almost all of them would be Cs. New World, The Once and Future King. I love this short, unapologetically. Some people will hate it. You are wrong. It's not perfect at all. Arnold Schwarzenegger is an older man, so his delivery is a bit off sometimes. But most of the rest is up to taste. Now, I played New World for a bit, but I remember basically nothing about it. You need to know nothing about this game. I've showed it to a lot of people, and it has been almost universally loved. Great visual language, a fun story, great messaging, excellent layouts. A lot of good things to say about it, but most of my positivity is directed at its excellent tone. This is the best of the episodes, in my opinion. I'm not giving out any S's for Secret Level, though, so this one is getting an A. Unreal Tournament Jan. So, remember Unreal Tournament? No, that's the main value of this one. If you played it as a kid, enjoy the references. It's mildly diverting, but there's not that much substance to it. There's robots versus vaguely defined enslavers. It's kind of a similar quality to the D&D short, but it's not quite as fun, so I'm going to give it a lower B. Wish I had more to say about it, but I do not. Now, Warhammer 40k, and they shall know no fear. This is one of the big boys. This is the Astartes guy on YouTube, if you're wondering. His grubby little artistic fingerprints are all over this bad boy. So if you like 40k, this episode rules. It looks amazing, has good action, and great composition. It also ties into the new Space Marine 2 game if you care about that sort of thing. But a general problem I almost always have with 40k novels and stories in general is how inhumanly dry they are. 40k isn't a setting about grounded, real, everyday people having relatable experiences. It's about brainwashed god monsters who unwaveringly die by the billions, and cold, long-winded descriptions of weird, semi-magical space technology that no one actually understands. So this short is really cool, but it's still 40k, so a lot's going to hinge on that. It's probably the second best of the shorts, I think. It'll probably be the best for a lot of people, so I'm going to give it an A as well. PAC-MAN Circle. What the... My best explanation of this short is that it feels like a writing experiment. What is Pac-Man about? Nothing. So if I gave you the challenge to take the raw material of the IP of Pac-Man and to do something with it, what would you make? That's what this is. It eventually comes together into something that is vaguely like Pac-Man. I can't imagine I'd care to watch something like the Pac-Man cartoons that were airing when I was a baby. If you want a more authentic Pac-Man, I question why. Otherwise, enjoy how odd this one gets, I guess. It's a D, probably more engaging than some of the other Ds, but it doesn't exhibit much love of the original, and it doesn't really fit the tone, so let's place it on the bottom. Crossfire Good Conflict. I'd never heard of Crossfire. Apparently it's like Korean Counter-Strike or something? It may be really popular in China, I don't know. I'll tell you now, I was bored out of my mind watching this. No one watching it with me enjoyed it. I couldn't tell you anything about the setting after having seen it. It just came across to me as incredibly generic military mission story number 9,500 whatever. For me, I'd say this is the worst of all the episodes, only because it had nothing to say, it did nothing memorable, and elicited no response of any kind. It exists. Maybe it means something if you care about whatever Crossfire is, or just really love military stuff, I don't know. But I doubt it. So, for me, I'm putting this at the very bottom of F. Armored Core Asset Management. I have no ties to Armored Core at all. The Armored Core fans that saw it with me said that it wasn't a good AC story. It does have Keanu Reeves, although they don't really utilize him. It's a little interesting visually, but it's also very dark and gray. Nothing terribly captivating about the ideas or characters either. The ending also feels a bit like something that was written in the 2000s. So it was fine. I'm going to give it a high C. Maybe a low B if you really like the games. So the top of C then. The Outer Worlds, the company we keep. Outer Worlds was one of those games I installed to stream, and then I got preoccupied with the YouTube work, drawing and such, and I never got around to actually playing it. Supposedly it's one of those don't spoil what happens games for the streamer, so I wouldn't know. I don't know anything about it. It is pretty funny, but also kind of disheartening. From what I gather, that's the setting, though. That's just what the tone of the setting is. It looks good. There's good progression, good characterization, maybe aside from the finale, perhaps. A solid experience, even if it is a bit frustrating sometimes. I'd probably put the 40k episode above this one, only due to its direction, so this one I'm also going to give an A. Mega Man Start. I'm not quite sure what to say on this one. Several watch buddies were excited because, Rockman. Lots of people like this. It looks good. Rock's face is very off-putting to me. Very strange looking. It is also very, very short. It barely shows off the premise of the IP, but it's content technically. If you want about 5 minutes of Mega Man, this is it, I suppose. Although I imagine its fans were probably pretty disappointed. Personally, I've never cared about Mega Man, except for that one clip of Mega Man going, "Now I've got your power," and then Pharaoh Man punches him in the face. Love that one. But middle D tier for me. Average, forgettable. Exodus Odyssey. Exodus is an episode about a game that has almost no information at the moment. It hasn't even come out yet. It seems to resemble Mass Effect, if anything, but that's beside the point. I found myself screaming at the screen a few times about time dilation, but that's probably just me. The episode's plot jumps around so much that you'll probably find yourself pretty confused or distracted by that. It tries to focus on character motivations, but while it's relatable, it's also fairly generic. It is trying, though, and it isn't offensive marketing schlock or anything like that. So I'll put it below Armored Core. It's okay. So that will be my second C. Spelunky Tally. While watching this, someone told me that I would despise Spelunky. It was not explained why to me, but I think it's because it's one of those you'll die over and over style games. I didn't get the impression it's like Meat Boy level or anything like that, but whatever. Anyways, the episode definitely dials into that, as that's basically all it's about. It looks okay, it has okay direction. It sort of has a character arc, but I definitely hated the messaging of it. Dying after 5 seconds is not an adventure. Stop. Anyways, I'd still say that it's probably a D. Concord, Tale of the Implacable. Concord, remember Concord. It's that game that came out recently. They ended up being the largest, arguably most catastrophic failure in the history of gaming, nearing ET levels. So, you can smell its problems all over this episode. It's some sort of generic heist story with awful-looking characters, with generic, severely off-brand James Gunn-style writing. When you think it ends, it keeps going for like 10 more agonizing minutes. I hated this, but it was trying to have a personality even if it was offensive corporate design garbage. So, only slightly better than Crossfire, I guess. This is my second F. Honor of Kings, The Way of All Things. Okay, Honor of Kings is some sort of Tencent Chinese League of Legends knockoff MOBA game. I have absolutely no clue what this short had to do with that, because it's about a kid wanting to play Go against a robot, I think. I don't... The plot is nonsense, and full of meaningless prompting gibberish. I get the feeling the creative team really liked visual direction and playing with transitions, though. It's heavy on visual language, but otherwise a little empty, mainly confusing. If I had more context, then it might be a little bit higher, but I sincerely doubt it. It is a little bit better than Sifu, I guess, maybe? Middle of D. And finally, here we are at the end. Playtime Fulfillment. This is corporate trash. Probably had the most controversy surrounding it since it has a lot of Sony references, including Helldivers, Shadow of the Colossus, God of War references, things of that nature. I don't know if it's irony or tone deafness, but the story is sort of about rejecting modern micro-engagement phone entertainment, sort of. But it is that. It feels exactly like that. So I don't know, I don't care. This was truly repugnant, and I was tempted to give it the lowest spot, but unfortunately this one made me feel something, even if it was hate. So I can't say that about Crossfire and Concord had a similar corporate tone while still being boring. So it goes into the trash fire of F tier, but on top of the burning pile. Burn well, knowing you're at the summit. Now, behold my first ever tier list. Also welcome people that skipped to the end. YouTube loves watch time this year, so I really wish you hadn't done that. I hate this platform. Anyway, in A tier we have New World, Warhammer 40k The Outer Worlds. In B tier, Dungeons & Dragons and Unreal Tournament. In C tier, Armored Core and Exodus. And in D tier, which is most of them, Spelunky, Mega Man, Honor of Kings, Sifu, and PAC-MAN. And at the very bottom we have Playtime, Concord, and Crossfire. Now, as I said, most of these are probably more of a C tier. I stretched the tiers out to give them their own identity so that we can actually talk about them. So if you look at the A's, if someone ever mentions Secret Level to me in future months or maybe years, they are fun, engaging spectacles, and I will probably remember them fondly if they are brought up. I might even remember them on my own. I'm a big boy. Now, the B's are almost there, but I find that they're lacking some sort of creative spark behind them. The C's are well made, but I feel they're a bit empty and forgettable, but could probably be shaped into something with another writer. The D's, however, kind of just exist. They're not overtly bad, they're just unspirited nothings that I'd never really give much thought to. And of course, the F's are pure trash that should not exist. All three don't have an ounce of love behind them, and they stink of major companies pumping money into something that they thought would be an elaborate advertisement for their garbage. So, that was my first tier list. People still like those, right? That's still a thing. I hope you watched the whole thing. I'm an interesting fella. Please throw $1 into my Patreon and watch some more videos while you poop. Don't forget to wash the knife. Be critical, be kind. See you next time.